I think we all know what the statistics show in the Philippines, that the top 1% controls 70-75% of the economy. That statistic alone should be very troubling for the Philippines and Filipinos. Dapat magising. Finally, they should wake up to the fact that this is a reality, and this is not a la-di-da situation or ho-hum situation. This is something which Filipinos have to wake up to and understand and demand, in a way, that they get a much bigger piece of the pie,
Yeah.
because all these opportunities are being hoarded by the top 1%.
That's right.
And they get away with it. The top 1% gets away with it
The oligarchy.
because unfortunately, the top 1% also controls the narrative in media, and they have a way of dumbing people. I've said this many times, Herman. They have
Yes.
a way of dumbing people down, ginagawang bobo,
Yes.
karamihan ng Pilipino, dahil through media.
Yeah.
Through media, the controlling oligarchs and their cohorts and their managers and employees who are in cahoots with them have a way of manipulating the narrative and keeping information and the right perspectives away from the masses.
Tama.
I've got someone waiting for me. When I see her, I know that she'll say, hey, 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 it's a beautiful day. Hot, 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 beautiful Sunday.
Can I just
Yeah, go ahead.
put an addendum dun sa
Sure,
kay
sure. Kanina.
Rosario Manalo, no? Sinabi niya yung voluntary. What are the essential elements or arbitration? Ito po ay International Law 101, no? UNCLOS 101. Number 1, there must be at least two parties wishing to voluntarily resolve their differences. Number 2, they must be willing to voluntarily abide by the ruling of the third party, the arbitral panel, yung umpire na sinasabi ni Ambassador Manalo. Number 3, the parties agree on the voluntary choice of each member of the panel. Number 4, the parties agree not just to abide by the decision of the panel, but to voluntarily enforce it among themselves. Number 5, all participants agree to voluntarily share in paying the PCA or the private arbitral panel for the jurors' honoraria, services legal or otherwise, and the use of the facilities. In other words, number 6, the operative word from number 1 to number 5 is voluntary participation. None of these essentials was China a party to.
Yeah. Now, bakit mahalaga yan? Kaya ang Pilipinas nag-opt out of the compulsory arbitration or process mechanism, and China kasi ang states are sovereign.
Yes, may sovereignty.
May sovereign yan. Hindi ka dapat pumayag kasi.
Yun ang premise. Kaya voluntary parati yan dahil merong sovereignty. In fact, kahit na sinabi mo you will abide with the decision, as a sovereign country, you can still refuse to abide. Wala pong makakapigil sa'yo.
Sovereign ka eh.
Sovereign country ka eh. Wala pong world government.
Ang hindi kasi nila naintindihan, ang sovereign, yung Chinese people, si Xi Jinping, siya lang ang leader doon.
Parang Pilipinas.
Pag hindi sumunod si Duterte sa gusto ng Pinoy,
O kabutihan
on the
ng
other
Pinoy.
hand, o kabutihan ng Pinoy, ay matatanggal sila sa pwesto. Pero itong komplikasyon nito, which I addressed to Arnedo Valera based in Washington, D.C., no, ha? In violating our own opt-out declaration, does this therefore expose us later on to any country
We will be under estoppel.
bringing us to compulsory arbitration?
Yeah.
This is an endangerment that Noynoy Aquino, Albert De Rosario, and Florin Hilbay, pinasok tayo.
Okay,
sa
ready
ganyang
na si
endangerment.
Ginoong
Okay,
David Nay sa
let's
kabilang
go.
linya po sa Beijing, China. David, good morning.
Good morning, Herman. Can you hear me well?
We can hear you and we can see you, but you cannot see us.
I know. That's fine.
Is
I
that
know how we
okay?
look like. That's fine, Herman.
Okay, anyway, we are looking at your visage. A little bit more white hair, it seems, David.
Oh, that's no problem. Yeah, as they say, you age with grace. That's
Yeah.
fine.
David, I was just telling our audience here and our guests, our colleagues here, si Ado Paglinawan, whom you interviewed before 30 years
I
ago.
It must have been a long time because I can't
Yeah.
remember anymore. I'm sorry.
He was still in Washington sa
Ah.
embassy natin.
Okay.
Okay,
All
and
right.
then here's Celso Cainglet, who is an academic. Celso is not from the Ateneo, no? You're not from the Ateneo.
Well, I studied at Ateneo, but I didn't graduate.
Okay, and then we have Ferdy Pasion here. So,
Okay.
David, you were in PTV4 before, ABS-CBN, Channel 9, Channel 13. Am I correct?
I was never with 13. I was with 4. I was a pioneer of ABS-CBN in '86 when it was restored. After the People Power Revolt, I was probably one of the first employees of ABS-CBN, of the new ABS-CBN.
How long have you been in China?
Oh, I've been here already. I think a little over 6 years already.
6 years.
Yeah.
I thought it was over 10 years already. 6 years.
Well, no, it seems like it. Certainly.
And you're with? Are you with Global Times, China Daily? Which?
Yes, I'm with the Global Times. I'm with the Global Times. It's the largest state-owned international English language newspaper. It's under the People's Daily.
So it's larger than People's Daily and China Daily.
No, it's under the People's Daily.
Yeah.
It's part of the People's Daily family.
Okay.
And we know how how huge People's Daily is.
Yes. Well, we've just been discussing the South China Sea issue, and we had a replay of an interview with Ambassador Rosario Manalo, who explained that the Philippines and China both opted out of compulsory arbitration. That is why it's problematic for the Philippines in the past administration to have imposed this process. Then we
Right.
had an interview with Ambassador Encomienda, who explained that after 6 months at that time, that when I interviewed him, and it's now 3 years, 4 conditions that those who pursued the arbitration promised. One, that
Right.
China will be a pariah, which has not happened after 3 years. China will be compelled will be forced to comply, which has not happened.
Sure.
And so on. So it is the 3rd anniversary. That's the significance of this week, this coming week. But well, you communicated with me, and you mentioned a more positive perspective or issue, which is the community of common destiny or shared future.
Right.
How did this come to your mind this week, David?
Well, this issue or this topic has long been discussed here in China.
Yes.
Obviously. Whether in speeches by top officials, to documents, to white papers, and to newspaper and media reports, this has long been stressed over here. And I think we have to understand, Herman, that over history there have been a lot of similar declarations by different regimes, empires, and powers in world history. It just comes in different names and probably different forms. And now is what they call probably the China century. So I don't really see it as any different from declarations in the past.
Yes.
Some may call the past hegemonic. That is the operative word I always hear. That the past was always hegemonic. Okay, and of course I will leave it at that. Obviously, it's a matter of different perspectives. All right, each one is allowed his own perspective on how they view certain countries or certain empires or groups. Okay, that's their prerogative. my position has always been very objective and very impartial. Okay, I guess as a journalist of long standing, I've always maintained a very impartial view. Uh, some would say too cerebral a view. Okay, but I feel that if a journalist starts putting in or injecting emotions in his stories or his perspective of events, then he or she diminishes his effectiveness as a journalist. All right.
Yes.
So, in other words, Herman, wherever I am, whoever I work for, it doesn't matter. I always maintain a very impartial and objective perspective.
Yes. David, if I may, pwede kaya tayo mag-Taglish or Tagalog also, ha?
Yeah, well, of course, alam mo naman, Herman, I
Yeah.
do have some difficulty there.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, I'm an enthusiastic supporter of that vision and that call. In fact, yesterday I had a discussion with some of my peers, age 68, 70, and
Right.
so apat kami. Sabi nung isa, ay parang manifest destiny yan ng Estados Unidos. Sabi ko, no, there's a difference. Manifest destiny is manifest destiny for America. But the community of shared destiny or shared future, it begins with the destiny, with the community.
Right.
So for me, that's very important. Sama-sama tayong lahat dyan. At saka yung mga building blocks towards this vision, if I recall the past 10 years of my discussions of these issues, the multipolar world is one principle. The BRICS structure, Brazil, Russia, India, China,
Yeah.
South Africa, and then of course the institutions set up, AIIB and so on. So it really is to encourage a multipolar world. Hindi yung tulad ngayon ang slogan ni Trump is America first, So America ang interest lang nila. 'Di ba?
Right. Well, but pero you have to understand also, Herman, that Trump is an aberration.
Okay.
Trump is not your typical American policymaker or leader. Okay.
Yes.
Trump is cut from a very different cloth. So, I wouldn't consider Trump mainstream.
Yes.
I would consider Trump an aberration. In fact, I think many in the U.S. hope that this nightmare goes away in about a year's time.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But you have to understand also, going back to the community of shared future, as I said, each to his own different times, okay? And while you may say that there is a difference between the US's version and this version, as far as I'm concerned, Herman, it's really up to the Philippines because the opportunities are there. The opportunities were
That's
there during the Manifest Destiny. Even if we say it's for the U.S., I don't see much of a difference with this one. Here we have opportunities again. The problem in the Philippines is these opportunities are normally seized and taken advantage of only by people in power.
That's right.
Or people of influence, and it rarely filters down to the masses. I think we all know what the statistics show in the Philippines, that the top 1% controls 75% of the economy. That statistic alone should be very troubling for the Philippines. And Filipinos, dapat magising. Finally, they should wake up to the fact that this is a reality. And this is not a la-di-da situation or ho-hum situation. This is something which Filipinos have to wake up to and understand and demand in a way that they get a much bigger piece of the pie,
Yeah.
Because all these opportunities are being hoarded by the top 1%.
That's right.
And they get away with it. The top 1% gets away with it
The oligarchy.
because unfortunately, the top 1% also controls the narrative in media and they have a way of dumbing people. I've said this many times, Herman. They have a
Yes.
way of dumbing people down. Ginagawang bobo.
Yes.
Karamihan ng Pilipino dahil through media.
Yeah.
Through media, the controlling oligarchs and their cohorts and their managers and employees who are in cahoots with them have a way of manipulating the narrative and keeping information and the right perspectives away from the masses.
Tama ka dyan, ka David, no? And that is the reason.
I'm against that.
Yeah.
I have been against that, Herman, for the longest time. I have been very outspoken about that dominance of a very greedy oligarchy class who always keep the majority of Filipinos in bondage.
That's
okay?
right.
I've said that many, many times. And I think that's a primary reason why for a long time the mainstream media has kept me out of the loop, precisely because of my outspokenness against what they do. I think natatakot sila dahil bistadong-bistado sila sa akin.
That's right. Tama yan. Kaya nga, David, kami ni Ado, sila Ferdy and our colleagues, we're migrating to the state media in the Philippines at tumutulong kami. For example, this RP1, this is a government
very
station. Kasi ito lang talaga ang pwedeng maging boses ng sambayanan, of the masses, of the whole nation. So I'm very glad we have this
Right.
opportunity to listen to you.
You also have the responsibility. Yeah, you also have the responsibility to provide a balanced perspective para sa Pilipino, no?
Yes.
It's not just always kung sinasabi ng gobyerno tama. No, you must be open to the fact that the government also makes a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
I mean, that's the reality, okay?
Oh, si Ado has something to add, David.
In fact, David, we are also the number one critic of the government. And we offer, but this is a critical collaboration. We offer suggestions, we offer solutions.
Yeah,
Right,
go ahead,
of
David.
course. But I think also Filipinos have to understand, because I think that sometimes the narrative gets a little cloudy, is this is not a zero-sum game. In other words, what I've been seeing and hearing in the Philippines is the attitude seems to be, if you're not with us, you're against us. That is very wrong. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because just because I criticize certain policies, for example, doesn't necessarily mean I'm the opposition. No. It just means I'm a thinking person. That's all it means. I'm not opposition. But unfortunately, in the Philippines, many of those in government and high places have a way of making the narrative, oh, kinikriticize mo ako, kaya opposition ka na, dilaw ka na, dilawan ka na. I honestly, I hate it, especially because I'm always on Facebook. Okay, I'm always on Facebook. And I hate it when many of these pro-Duterte individuals and groups always brand somebody who, just because he criticizes certain policies or certain people in government, dilawan yan, inspired by dilawan. I find these bloggers and these, I don't know if they're paid or not, but anyway, those on Facebook, I find them very dumb.
Yeah.
And I find them adding to the dumbing down of the Filipino people. They add to the dumbing down narrative. And I hate to say this,
No, but it's a reality. Even on the other side, the yellows have their own, operations in social media. So it's part of the struggle in the arena, yung information war. Si Ferdy would like to.
It leads to a lot of confusion and a lot of fake news.
Yeah. Well, Ferdy Pasion here would like to join the discussion. Ferdy, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. David Nye. I have always
morning,
been
Ferdy.
one of your admirers.
I'm-
It's nice to know that it's a revelation that you share the same ideas as I do, which is primarily the control of the oligarchs over our mainstream media, over our economy. And we should not deviate from that very important issue, because as long as we do not have equality, which is stated in our constitution that we must have economic equilibrium, no matter who is in charge, the people will still be at the receiving end of this oligarchs' greed.
Well, Ferdy, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is this field which I know very, very well. I mean, I've been in broadcasting. I've been in media for close to 4 decades already. Okay, and I've studied this very, very well over the years, and I have a lot of potential programs and policies for Philippine media, which I would like to, which I have liked to implement over the years, if I'm put in a position of authority in Philippine government as far as media is concerned. Unfortunately, I haven't been put in such a position, and therefore I will hold my recommendations and potential solutions to this problem and other problems in Philippine media until and unless I get into a position of authority in Philippine government. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm not going to share it, but believe me, Ferdy, my solutions are initially not going to be very popular, especially with the oligarchs. Okay. However, on the long term, I believe that my solutions and policies, which I, by the way, have studied very, very well and based on extensive research, will help the Filipino become smarter and more informed as far as media is concerned. There.
Well, I think we're all thinking along the same lines, David. So the question at this point is, when are you going to be in Manila so we can have a roundtable discussion?
I'm going to be there for the Christmas season again.
Okay, so that's still quite a number of months away, but
That's still half a year away.
yeah. Oh, so okay, so you have ideas for our Philippine media. You have also this message that Filipinos should take advantage of the opportunities here
Absolutely.
with China's vision of the community of shared destiny. I
Right.
think President Duterte is trying very hard to steer the course towards cooperation and joint efforts with China. I suppose you support that.
Of course, I support that, but on a balanced scale. In other words, true friends also point out things that are not good, things that will hurt
Yes.
the other person.
Yes.
Okay. And because from what I've been reading and discussing with people already, people think that he sounds already like a lapdog. You know, that he lacks the guts. He's very gutsy when it comes to other things, and he's very vocal when it comes to other things, and he uses even the most outlandish language. But when it suddenly comes to China, he suddenly sounds like a wimp.
Well, that's what mainstream media would like it to appear, but you will notice that even with Japan, President Duterte has portrayed a special attitude and relationship of respect and honoring with Japan or the ASEAN countries. So this is a special reverence to our neighborhood and our members of the Asian community. So I don't think it's different with China or with Japan or with Thailand and so on. It's just that the mainstream media here targets Duterte when it comes to China. That's my assessment. So David, back to you.
Well, again, you have to look everything at balanced perspective. You see, I don't support anyone. You see, I am not Dilawan. I am not, DDE or whatever. I'm not any of these groups. Herman, you've known me well enough.
Yes,
I've
yes.
always been.
Yeah, we've had our debates too.
What's that?
We have had our debates too.
Yes, we've had our debates too. But of course, I've always been somewhere in between. Always looking at a broader perspective. I've never identified with any particular group.
Yes.
And I'm known for that. I'm known to be an independent thinker. That is my reputation. And I think that's why many people in the Philippines feel threatened because I can't be bought,
Yes.
basically, I think that's fundamentally what's scaring a lot of people about me in the Philippines.
I've got someone waiting for me. When I see her, I know that she'll say,